a group of thieves who steal millions of rupees without breaking a single locker. But they escape from jail before stealing the money. The more surprising thing is, they return the stolen money too. Now the question is, what did they actually steal after escaping from jail? So friends, today I'm going to tell you the story of an amazing masterpiece movie, Logan Lucky. At the beginning of the story, we see Jimmy Logan. He was working on his car and talking to his daughter. His daughter Sadie loves Jimmy very much. But Jimmy was in a lot of financial trouble. His telephone line had been cut because he could not pay the bill. Jimmy's wife had left him. Now his daughter Sadie stays with her mother and meets Jimmy occasionally. Sadie had decided to participate in a school dance program, but she had not yet decided on which song she would dance. Then Jimmy goes for a job at an under-construction site. This construction work was happening right below a racing field. When Jimmy was working, his boss called for him. When Jimmy entered the office, the boss told him, "Sorry, Jimmy, I can't keep you on the job anymore." Jimmy was completely stunned. This job was very important for him. He asked, "Why?" The boss then informed him, "It's not your fault, Jimmy, but yesterday when you were getting off the truck, someone from our company saw you limping. And the company does not want to hire any disabled person." Jimmy used to limp due to a problem in his leg, although it did not affect his work. Jimmy returned home sad because he lost his job. He had been fired from work many times before. Then, Jimmy comes to his sister Millie's ladies' parlor. Millie worked there as a hairdresser. From Millie, Jimmy learns that he did not go to see his daughter's song rehearsal. So Sadie is very angry with him. Then Jimmy goes to his ex-wife Bobby's house. He had divorced Bobby a long time ago, and his daughter Sadie stays with her mother. Jimmy used to meet Sadie there, but this time, Bobby informs that she and her current husband, Tony, are planning to leave the city for another city due to a business venture. Jimmy gets very angry, because if they leave, he will not be able to meet his daughter, and he does not have the financial means to keep his daughter with him. In this frustration, anger, and resentment, Jimmy goes to a bar. His brother Clyde worked as a bartender at that bar. Both Clyde and Jimmy used to work in the army before. Clyde was discharged from the army after his left hand was blown off in a mission in Iraq. Now he uses a plastic hand. When Jimmy and Clyde were talking about their sorrows and miseries, some customers who came to the bar started making fun of Clyde's fake hand. Jimmy gets very angry about this, and a fight starts with them. Clyde then takes a bottle of liquor and sets fire to the customer's parked car. When the people started taking videos with mobile cameras to keep evidence, Jimmy came out, snatched their mobiles, and threw them into the fire. To escape from poverty and hardship, the two brothers, Jimmy and Clyde, plan a major theft together. They decide to steal the money kept in the locker of a racing car company called Charlotte Motor Speed. This company earned a lot of money from car racing, gambling, and betting at the stadium. When Jimmy was working at the construction site below the racing field, he found a pipeline there. All the cash from the stadium was deposited into the locker through this pipeline. The locker's security was also very strict. Jimmy and the others needed an expert to break the locker. So Jimmy and Clyde go to jail and meet an inmate named Joe Bang. The only way to open the locker's lock was known to Joe. Joe agrees after hearing their plan, but says it will take him another 6 months to get out of jail. Jimmy's plan was to finish the robbery within 5 weeks. So a plan had to be made to get Joe out of jail first. Jimmy comes up with a brilliant plan to get Joe out of jail just for the day of the robbery. Joe is impressed when he hears that plan. However, he informs that 2 more people will be needed for this job. Joe then tells Jimmy and Clyde about his 2 brothers, Fish and Dayton. As per Joe's instructions, Jimmy and Clyde meet Joe's 2 brothers, Fish and Dayton. When Jimmy shares the robbery plan with them, they initially refuse because they had quit doing bad things. But after hearing about so much money, they all agree. Then Fish and Dayton go to jail and meet Joe and bring his working tools for Joe packed in a wooden box. Meanwhile, Clyde intentionally causes a car accident and is arrested. Since Clyde was a former Army officer, he was sentenced to only 3 months in jail. Millie followed the car that came and went every day to transport prisoners in the jail and took some notes in her notebook. This is how Millie joins their plan. Clyde and Joe are kept in the same jail. There, the two of them work together to make something out of wood, according to the measurements given by Millie. Then we see Jimmy talking to his friend about a trucking business. After getting out from there, Jimmy meets Sylvia, who was his college junior and is now a social worker doctor. She used a car as a mobile hospital to serve the poor people. Sylvia gives Jimmy an injection so that the wound on his foot does not rot. In this conversation, Jimmy slowly begins to like Sylvia. At night, Millie draws some symbols on the wood. The next day, Jimmy goes to the underground construction site where he planned the robbery. He takes some things he had left there and steals a blueprint of the stadium. When he meets his boss on the way out, he learns that since their work is finished, they will leave from there soon. Jimmy then gets worried, because as a result, he will have to finish his robbery in just 3 weeks, not 5 weeks. He informs Clyde of this news. Jimmy also learns that on the day they plan to rob, there will be a big car race competition at the stadium. This means there will be a lot of people that day, and the money transaction will also be high, for which the security will be even stricter. Even though Millie asks to cancel the plan, Jimmy informs that the crowd or security will not obstruct their work. The next day, a large cake gift is sent from Jimmy's side to the woman in charge of the locker. The woman was happily cutting and eating the cake with everyone. But just then, the stadium security guard calls her away because someone hit her car, damaging it. The woman finishes the FIR formalities and returns to the locker to find the locker door closed. Usually, the locker door closes automatically after 5 p.m. The remaining part of the cake stays inside the locker. That night, Millie and Jimmy go to the construction site and insert colored-coded alarms into the cash transfer pipe. The next day, when the woman comes to the locker, she screams when she sees that someone has eaten the rest of the cake and quickly sends for a cleaner. Fish and Dayton enter the locker as cleaner men. They see the colored alarms while cleaning the locker and inform Jimmy's team. They then realize they have an idea of all the paths inside the locker. The story begins with a prison scene on the morning of the day of the robbery, which is the day of the car race. All the inmate cells are opened. Clyde takes a job at the prison hospital that day. As per the plan, Joe drinks a lot of water and eats food so that he can fall sick and go to the hospital. Meanwhile, Bobby and her husband Moody get ready to go to the school event with their daughter Sadie. Millie brings Sadie to the salon to get her ready, but Millie has to go to the racing spot to help with the robbery. So cleverly, Millie takes Moody's car instead of her own. Millie did not like Moody at all because Moody would sometimes flirt with Millie and say bad things. On the other hand, when the jail superintendent comes for a round check, Joe, who ate extra food, starts vomiting in front of him. He is quickly admitted to the prison hospital. Since Clyde was already working there, he plans to get Joe out of jail. Clyde takes Joe to the bathroom, and they escape through the bathroom's secret door and come to the jail's workshop. The vehicle that used to transport the inmates every day had arrived there then. Joe and Clyde set the wooden box, made according to Millie's notes, under the car. They also enter inside the box themselves. When the car leaves the jail after work, nothing is caught during the security check. Meanwhile, the inmates in the jail were waiting in front of the TV for the race to begin. 2 hours before the race began, as per Joe's plan, his other inmate friends start fighting among themselves. Seeing the situation go out of control, the emergency siren is sounded in the jail, and the jail superintendent puts the entire jail on lockdown. On the other hand, Fish and Dayton cause an explosion in a security office far from the city. As a result, the stadium security system is shut down, and card payments also stop. Now only cash had to be used for any transaction in the stadium. The car that left the jail stops at a petrol pump. Joe and Clyde come out from the box under the car. They break the box so that they can set it under the car again and return to jail. Millie was already waiting there. She had brought Moody's car. The three of them leave in the car towards the stadium. Jimmy had already arrived there and gone to the underground site. The gate had a password lock, but Jimmy knew the password from working there. We see for the first time how money goes to the locker from above the stadium. The money is put into glass jars and sent through the pipeline. And when the switch is pressed, it goes to the locker. Then the jars empty and return. By then, Millie, Clyde, and Joe reach the stadium. On the other hand, the inmates in the jail hold some guards and call the jail superintendent to make some demands. Their main objective was to waste time, as Joe had instructed. Now Jimmy, Joe, and Clyde were all three at the underground site. Joe uses all the equipment, cuts the pipe, sends a small box with an explosion through it towards the locker. The explosion opens the mouth of the locker's pipeline. But smoke is created, and it reaches above the stadium through another pipeline. Seeing this, the stadium salesman informs the security team, and they send 2 people to check the basement. Meanwhile, the inmates in the jail keep shaking the door of the CCTV camera so the surveillance does not shift. We see Jimmy and his team pulling out the money from the locker using a large vacuum cleaner. Jimmy fills that money in garbage bags. While working fast, when Jimmy increases the power of the vacuum cleaner, a wire from the main control board gets stuck in Clyde's fake hand. Clyde gets angry. When the wire is cut, everything becomes normal, and they get back to work. They take out almost all the money from the locker through the pipe and fill it in sacks. The race was going on above the stadium then. Jimmy and Joe put the sacks full of money into a mini truck. That money is sent out of the underground by Fish and Dayton. When they were leaving, they run into the 2 guards who came to check the basement. Since the bags were garbage bags and Fish and Dayton were wearing cleaner uniforms, the guards ask a couple of questions and let them go. But the last exit gate closes, which Fish and Dayton did not know how to open. Seeing Fish Dayton's delay, Joe comes out and tries to open the door, but fails. Seeing all the delays, Jimmy goes himself and sees that the door is locked with a chain. He just unhooks the chain. Fish and Dayton go outside. Jimmy and Joe come back again and start picking up the remaining money. Meanwhile, the remaining half of the money had come out through the vacuum cleaner. When Joe and Clyde try to leave the basement, they confront the man with whom Jimmy and Clyde had fought in the bar and whose car they had set on fire. When the man mocks Clyde's hand, Joe and Clyde catch him, beat him severely, and leave the place in Millie's car. Jimmy comes out alone later, and all the money was kept in Jimmy's car. Meanwhile, the inmates in the jail burn some papers in the garbage bin and hold it near the fire alarm. The siren immediately goes off. The jail superintendent calls the fire service. Clyde and Joe were already hiding wearing fire service uniforms. Then, when the car leaves, they hide inside the car and enter the jail. The fire service people see that there is no fire anywhere. The fire alarm was sounded for a false fire. Millie also returns to her salon in time and gets Sadie ready for the event. Sadie had previously decided to dance to the song that her mother loved to hear, but that was canceled. She gets ready for the song that her father liked. Jimmy is quite happy to see his daughter perform. Meanwhile, when the nurse comes to check on Joe, she learns that the bathroom door is locked, because Joe was stuck inside the bathroom. When Sadie's performance ends, everyone leaves. Moody sees his car badly covered in mud and gets very angry. Jimmy hides all his sacks of money on the way next to the petrol pump and returns home. While everyone was busy resting, Jimmy burns all his work checklists and documents. The next morning, breaking news spreads that a gang of thieves has stolen all the money from the stadium locker and escaped. But the police find the money that Jimmy had left at the petrol pump. The question arises in everyone's mind. If the thieves stole the money, then why did they leave it by the roadside? Why did they go to so much trouble to steal? The responsibility for this investigation falls on the FBI agent super team. The team leader meets the boss, who is in charge of the underground construction site. Because the workers knew well about this pipeline, the boss informs that the workers always wore hand gloves for safety, so fingerprints would be of no use. But then an agent says that they have found a witness. That person tells the FBI agent everything about Clyde and Joe. However, according to government records, Clyde was not at the locker that day, so he is of no help. Then almost 3 months pass. Clyde's sentence ends, and he returns to his sister's house. There, he sees a parcel addressed to him on the table. On the other hand, the FBI agents continue their investigation. They check the jail's CCTV footage and find some clips of Joe meeting with Clyde and Jimmy. So they suspect that Joe and Clyde broke out of jail that day, committed the robbery, and somehow returned to jail. When they then ask the jail superintendent about any unusual incident that day, the jail superintendent completely suppresses the incident to save his job. He insists that the jail security is very strict, so no one can escape from there. The agents come out from there and start investigating Jimmy. Jimmy's mobile connection had been cut off a long time ago for non-payment of bills, and there was no GPS tracker in Jimmy's car. However, at the time of the robbery, Jimmy was present at his daughter's event, and many people testified to this. Therefore, the agents find no connection between Jimmy and the robbery. The incident moves on to 3 months later. Joe's sentence ends, and he is released from jail. After getting out of jail, Joe goes to Clyde's bar. He asks him, "Where is Jimmy? Why did he do this?" They stole the money, so why did Jimmy return it? What was the profit of the robbery? Joe was very angry, but Clyde cannot tell Joe anything. When Joe goes to leave in frustration, his doorbell rings. He doesn't see anyone outside, but he sees a shovel. Digging the ground, he finds a large bag full of money. He becomes very happy. Then he realizes that Jimmy had buried the stolen money in the ground at his house and left the shovel to make Joe understand. Actually, Jimmy's entire plan was different, which he did not tell anyone, not even Clyde. Jimmy messed up Fish and Dayton's exit gate that day and sent Joe when he saw their delay. Taking this opportunity, Millie and the 3 siblings put a good amount of money into separate bags and dumped them into another bin. When Millie left, Jimmy wiped away all fingerprints and opened the gate for Fish and Dayton. On the other hand, Millie's friend, with whom she stole the money, took those sacks out of the stadium and hid them in a secret place. 6 months later, when the entire incident of the robbery was suppressed, he brought out that money. Although no one had the exact count of how much money was in the locker that day, because all transactions were done in cash. So, when the police found the money at the petrol pump, they assumed that this was all the stolen money. Then we see the inmate who helped Joe escape from jail. That inmate is released from jail and finds some money on his way back in his car. He is very happy to get this money. Jimmy also sends some money in an envelope to the woman in the locker whose car was hit. He sends some money to Sylvia as a donation for her work. Everyone was happy to receive their share of the money, and they all start their lives anew. Then it is seen that Jimmy has taken his daughter on a long drive and is having a picnic there. Then, one day, Jimmy goes to the bar. While talking to Clyde there, Clyde asks, "Did you think everything would calm down after 6 months?" Jimmy says, "It is natural that after finding the stolen money, no one will search for that money anymore. Since they could not completely close the locker that day, they were not sure how much money was deposited there. So, they will think that what they found is all the money. And if the FBI does not find any evidence, all the cases will automatically be slowly closed after 6 months and the situation will become normal. In this way, Jimmy and his companions together commit a beautiful, perfect crime." Then we see Sylvia becoming Jimmy's friend in the bar. The relationship between Millie and Joe also becomes very beautiful. Clyde was talking very nicely in that bar. A question remains here. Was the FBI agent connected with the thieves? What do you think? Let us know your opinion in the comment box. Let us know how you liked the movie. If you liked it, Please like it, share with your friends. See you in the next new video.